The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have.
Hello, this is Carl Seidel, host of The People's View, and today we're in the governor's office up in Concord. Talk to Governor Sununu. Thank you very much for taking
Carl.
time.
Thanks for coming up.
What are we going to be doing for the 2019 for the state of New Hampshire?
We're going to be doing a lot, there's no doubt. Look, I think we've set an incredible precedent of getting a lot of things done in the past, in just the past 2 years. I mean, we really covered the spectrum, everything from healthcare and education, fighting for veterans, fighting for the elderly, better nursing programs, DCYF, mental health, the opioid crisis, taking a huge leap forward just in this past month with the whole new design of a system that we've put out. So we've put into place the structure of a lot of tremendous programs. Now you got to manage, right? Now you really need to implement these programs to make sure that you're getting the services and the results to the individual, right? One of the kind of philosophical differences this administration has taken versus previous administrations is we're really trying to focus on individuals, not institutions, right? So when you talk about funding, well, how's the funding going to impact that family or that business or whatever it might be?
And you're putting the measurement systems into place.
And you put accountability into place so you know, A, what works and what doesn't work. So if it's not working, you can pull back on it. Also, so folks know that there is a certain, with an investment of public dollars comes the accountability of getting those results, showing those results, and making sure that, again, we're getting the returns that we want on those investments. So, I mean, everything from, there's still more to do on, I think, on school choice, the implementation of the new opioid hub and spoke model that we've presented. I think we've done a tremendous amount of work for veterans, and our VA has really turned around with new management, new programs, some new infrastructure over there. We became the first state with veterans that now allows a veteran to see a VA doctor in a private hospital, right? Real healthcare choices. We're the gold standard. We're the model that the rest of the country is looking at. So are certain aspects of what we've done here that have just been have kind of shot out of the gate, gone like gangbusters, and certain aspects where we're still working through the systems where, you know, mental health and some aspects of DCYF where we've seen some abuse in homes. We've completely changed those systems in the past year. It's going to take a little time, I think, to get to the outcomes and results that we're looking for. It doesn't happen overnight, but we've definitely put the leadership team in place. We put the funding in place. We put prevention programs in place. We're doing things differently to get better results.
Have you had any problems really with people doing things differently? You know, difference is always
change is hard. Yeah, change is hard for folks, and that's completely understandable. So whatever you do, when you do change something, you can't just demand that tomorrow there's a magic wand and everything is different. You have to understand that there's a process that comes with change. You got to bring the best way to do it. I always found you bring the stakeholders in, right? You bring those individuals in and you ask their input. You say, look, we are going to change how we do it. What do you think? You make them kind of owners, if you will, of that change. And even though it can be tough on them at times, one thing this state I think has done wrong in the past is when we want something to go differently, we just put more money at it, or we push harder in the same direction.
Right.
Pushing harder in the same direction doesn't get you change, right? You need to have the courage and the political will to drive things in a new direction sometimes. And sometimes that does require more funding too, that's okay. But really pushing things in a whole new direction is so important to simply getting better results for the individual.
Well, you've had some better results, so I guess you're really showing that it works, and you bring more business people in who are used to working that way.
Boy, the economy's booming. It really is. I mean, we had a pretty good economy when we came in. We focused on business. When you focus on business, you cut taxes, you get regulation out of people's way. That creates opportunity at the state level, right? The funding comes in, the resources come in at the state level, which creates opportunity to focus on programs of need. But it really starts with a strong economic base. If you don't have a strong economic base, everything else falls apart. So we focused on it. It worked. It's yielded great results. Whether you're talking about the federal tax cuts or our local tax cuts, the deregulation that we've gone through, simply better customer service.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at the state level from our commissioners and some of the frontline employees. By again creating those levels of accountability in those systems, we're just getting better results, and that creates more opportunity for the legislature to focus on education, focus on DCYF, focus on mental health or opioids, whatever it might be.
Well, we're seeing, I think, speaking for myself anyway, that more involvement of the people, more buy-in to that approach, which is one that I've been trying to see if we could get before you came aboard, but I'm glad you're bringing that up. We're having all the excess funds that come in dedicated to some one-time projects like the roads and everything like that, which is an excellent way of going, and filling up the rainy day fund and all that.
You know, when you have extra money, you don't create bigger government,
right? Because
you're going to create long-term liabilities that the state can't meet. That's the opportunity to invest in infrastructure. So you mentioned we've sent $35 million out to every city and town for roads and bridges last year when we had extra money. We did $30 million in our Safe Schools program, which is over 400 schools getting grants for doors, lockdown systems, surveillance systems, emergency plans, things that just wouldn't be funded otherwise. And then we did the Clean Drinking Water Fund, right? $275 million over the next 10 years or so to be invested in clean drinking water infrastructure in this state. When you invest from the state level into infrastructure, that creates property tax relief, right? Because those are projects that otherwise the property taxes would have to go to. So that's creating a lot of financial flexibility at a local level to either fund other projects or provide property tax relief back to homeowners. And that's, as we know, that's where one of our biggest pockets of taxes, our only real pocket of tax in the state, is property taxes. So to be able to push some cash down to the local level and create that that flexibility, if you will, I think is a tremendous opportunity for everybody.
Are there any particular projects you're looking forward to starting or enhancing this next coming year?
So workforce is an issue, right? So we've been so successful with driving business. Companies from all over the world are coming into New Hampshire right now. We need workforce. We have more people working today than ever before in New Hampshire, highest wages and highest wage growth of anyone in the Northeast. And we also have a lot of available jobs. So we're going to drive a lot on workforce. And what we're trying to do is create opportunities within the community colleges, the high schools, the four-year public and private colleges to really keep the workforce that we're creating. So I'm looking to make singular investments, one-time investments into the university system and community colleges to create new programs. One of the programs we'll be investing in at UNH is doubles the number of nurses, let's say. We're going to double the number of nurses in the state because we need it. Right, over the next 10 years, we're going to have a massive nursing shortage in this state with healthcare. We need those nurses. Let's make that one-time investment, double the size of the program, so we can retain that workforce for the future.
What about transportation? Do you think anything should be done in that area?
Well, the most key part of public transportation in New Hampshire is our bus system. The bus system and the local bus systems that we have. I live over on the seacoast. We have Coast. That is so vital because that's getting maybe someone on the lower income scale or an elderly individual on a fixed income from their homes to the doctor, from their homes to the grocery store or to school. That's where the highest and best use of public transportation comes in a state like ours that has some small cities, but also has a lot of rural areas as well. That's where I think we just need to make sure that we've maintained a focus. I think in some of those areas we've pulled back certain funding. You got to make sure that the infrastructure is there, the buses are there, the drivers, the workforce is there, the stops, right?
Yeah.
The number of stops is actually there. I tend to get involved in a lot of the minutia, but you got to make sure that the bus is stopping at that senior center and stopping at these grocery stores and stopping at the hospital and the healthcare centers so that the real needs of the individuals are being met from the system. That's where I think our focus really needs to go.
What about getting people to their jobs in these different industrial parks and stuff from the inner cities?
Sure. So again, Manchester has their system, the Nashua has their systems. Again, just making sure that the systems are meeting the true workforce needs of the area, not just up and down Main Street, but as you brought out, to the mill districts, to industrial parks, to some of the outskirts of those smaller cities. Rochester, Somersworth, I know we're trying to make sure that the bus system is getting folks where they need to be out there. Works pretty darn well. But again, we just want to make sure we don't lose that funding, and where we can, enhance it to make it really applicable to individuals.
Well, we've got that big industrial park going around the airport, too.
That's right.
That should be something that maybe looking at it from a countywide
Sure. Sure.
Just the city.
Sure. You know, the state's going to have a tremendous opportunity in the next couple of years. We have a whole new airport director at Manchester Airport coming in. The Manchester Airport for 10 plus years has really been sliding. Not to criticize past leadership, I don't like to look in the rearview mirror. I always want to look forward. There's a huge opportunity to get some of that market share back. While other smaller rural airports have really thrived lately, Manchester just hasn't the way it should. But I think with this new leadership coming in, a new director, some new ideas that are thrown on the table, and real focus on what is possible in New Hampshire, I think that could be a tremendous regional transportational hub for us that allows us to really integrate ourselves to the worldwide economy, if you will, not by having to drive down to Boston, but by really getting some whether it's better airlines in here, better routes in here that really meet our needs. So that's going to be a tremendous opportunity as well.
And I think you're also interested in developing our tourist trade and everything, because you made the papers recently and having the schools start after Labor Day.
I focus on manufacturing a lot. I focus on tourism. Manufacturing is the #1 part of our economy. So energy costs are the big driver there. And if you don't control energy, these manufacturers are going to leave. They could very easily pick up their company and walk out the door tomorrow. We've seen it happen in the past. We've seemed to have stopped that finally and now we're being attractive to other companies because we are controlling energy costs, we are controlling healthcare costs, we're doing the right things on the ground. If you lose sight of that and you start pushing up energy rates, these companies are going to get up and leave. Same thing with tourism. If you lose sight of the things that impact the tourism industry, our #2 industry in the state, primarily workforce, right? I'm a big proponent, as you heard recently, Save Our Summer, we call that program, which basically just says all we want to do is make sure all schools start after Labor Day. You know, pushes the schedule about three days. That small change can have a drastically positive effect for families, for teachers, for workforce, for businesses, for tourism, from the lakes to the mountains to the oceans. Everybody benefits from this. How that should look, I don't really know. So we're going to put a commission together. Maybe we look at the number of days in the school year, the number of hours you have to be in school, or vacation days within the year, teacher work days, whatever it might be. There's a lot of variables that will come into play. Farmers love the idea of moving till after Labor Day. They need their workforce as long as they possibly can to bring in that harvest. So it's amazing the number of constituencies have come out to talk about the value, not just from a tourism standpoint, but in terms of overall quality of life and economic standpoint in our state by just moving the school day a few days. And a lot of the districts already do it, right? They're not going to school into July. They manage their schedule appropriately. They start after Labor Day, but the majority still don't. And I think we need to, it'd be great if we could get everyone kind of on board with the same schedule, understanding that there is a huge net benefit to the state when we're all working together.
Tying in with the buses, I understand the East Coast there, they have a lot more buses too for tourists and looking, going to different places.
Yeah, sure.
Where they don't have that in the inner part of the state.
That's right. That's right. So they've had some success out in the beach area in Hampton Beach with allowing people to park in satellite areas and bring them in. And I think there's still a lot more that we can do there. We're still, when you talk about the lakes and the mountains, we have so many different areas across the North Country. It's hard to create a bus system that can practically meet the needs of all of our potential tourist destinations. When it comes to those bus systems, though, it's really about making sure that you look at the market, who are the individuals we're providing rides to, and where do they want to go. It's really that simple, and asking them what their needs are, and then setting the system up to meet the needs of that individual community.
Have you looked at the possibility of incorporating some of these car like Lyft and
I love Lyft or Uber, programs like that that are just, they're more inner city, but they're growing here, and I think there's huge opportunity there. It can be much more inexpensive. It can provide a lot of flexibility, integrating programs like that. Even medical transportation, they can be involved with that. So making sure that we're open to all that. We're licensing it all appropriately. We're not creating regulatory hurdles so they don't want to be here. Every Lyft driver is an entrepreneur. Every Uber driver is a small business.
That's right.
So there's huge opportunity economically for those individuals by allowing that to happen, and then you get the double benefit of really providing a service for a lot of communities that right now have limited access to transportation.
We're going to have a busy year.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
We have to get the vote out, though. How do we
You know,
do
we really do. You know, one of the fears, I guess, I would say, is that you can't take our success for granted. I mean, we work hard at creating systems to be long-term sustainable, thinking far off into the future, and creating systems that individuals can count and rely on, but it still maintains their individual responsibility and freedoms to do what they want to do with their life, right? You can't take that for granted. We've worked very hard to create these systems. We need people to come out and vote in November. We need people to engage in the process. Even though things are good and the economy is wonderful, and you know, I don't take that for granted. We need their vote. I hope to earn everybody's vote in November. But we really need folks coming out and participating in the process to keep those momentum that we've created for the long term.
There are a lot of interested people that want to run too, that don't see how to get their name out, but we're trying to do that in public access TV.
Absolutely.
And I think this interview is going to get your voice
Anybody
out to
can run for
everybody.
anything in this state, and
Right.
anybody can be successful. That's the amazing part of New Hampshire. Anybody can have success. It doesn't take money and all that. It takes the will to pick up the phone and knock on some doors and explain why you want to do whatever it is you want to do, from the school board or planning board or selectmen onto the House member, Senate, or governor, whatever it might be. There's room for everyone to participate. That is the uniqueness of New Hampshire. So just making sure that everyone participates in the process, they get out, they're sure to vote in November. There's no reason we can't keep up all the momentum that we've had.
And that your administration is open for communication.
Try to be as open and transparent as possible, right? Don't get me wrong, the schedule's tough, right? I probably have to say, I mean, of the meeting requests I get, I probably have to say no to 3/4 of them just because I only have so many hours in the day, right? After a 12 or 16-hour day, at some point, I'm back with the family. My son has football practice, and we have to live as normal of a life as we can. So we do have, and we have a pretty small staff. Just that's the way we're frugal here in New Hampshire. We don't overbloat our staff or our bureaucracies. But we really try to meet the needs of everyone that we can and integrate with them and make sure that they, as stakeholders, have a voice in the decision-making process that even happens all the way up into the corner office.
Well, I appreciate your staff. They've been very helpful in getting this meeting together.
Oh, great.
And we'll have to do it again.
Anytime.
Thank you very
Carl.
much.
Good to see you.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. Today we're taking this interview up in Concord at the GOP headquarters, and we have as our guest the President of the Senate, Chuck Morse. Hi,
Kyle, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you too. We've done it before. We can talk about what the Senate's going to be doing in 2019 and what it actually has accomplished so far.
Sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. So what do you think the results of 2018 has been?
Well, I think we have to remember where we came from. I mean, we certainly came from, philosophies that weren't on balanced budgets. They talked about 100 new taxes and fees, and we've come a long way. I think the last 2 years of this session have been fantastic. We've made a lot of accomplishments, you know that.
Right.
We've certainly reduced business taxes, which are driving the economy in New Hampshire. I mean, 738,000 Granite State is employed right now, and the 4th best economy in the nation. That's a great place to be. I think our leadership's working.
And it's not showing this hole that the people were projecting that the cuts in taxes would bring.
Oh, absolutely not. I think it's creating excitement. I hear a lot of people talking about investing in this state. You're seeing businesses moving here. I think the governor's, basically put a lot of effort into making sure that we're attracting new businesses to the state of New Hampshire, and it's working.
Well, what's the Senate going to be focusing on? I mean, the House is going to be starting off with the budget. What are you guys going to be doing?
Well, I think that's the most important document that we work on, and I think creating a balanced budget, look, when I came back in 2011, that budget had increased by about 23% over where I left it, and the reality was there was an $800 million deficit. The most important thing we can do when we come back is make sure we create realistic, balanced budgets. I think that's the most important document.
And it's shown that from the excess money we've been pulling in.
Oh, I think, look, we've taken that excess money and we've sent it back in road and bridge work locally, $37 million. And again, in this last year, we sent another $20 million back on state-owned red list bridges. I think that's an important philosophy that we should be doing in government. And along with that, the governor's decided that we need to focus on infrastructure in schools, and we certainly took excess money and sent it to that. And we've accomplished a lot.
It has been, and I think people are appreciating that. It's something I think that the government is also probably working a little bit more effectively.
I think it's working effectively. I think people are watching the numbers as they go along. I think to Republicans right now, the most important thing is making sure that we drive the economy and there's no talk of recession in New Hampshire. Right. And I think that's important because 2008, the way this state was managed, you know, we went hard into the recession and we stayed in it for a long time. Remember, we filled the rainy day fund. There's $110 million in there. Right. My goal is to get the $150 million in there, but things like that are really where we're headed in this state, to protect the state and build an economy that'll live through recessions.
Yeah, and cover some of these unexpected things that may come up. Yeah, you know, it's always nice to have a little bit in the bank, right?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's a philosophy that I've lived by. You know, when we came back and looked at budget increases and we looked at the fact we only had a few $1 million in the bank, we were bonding items that were bonded locally, and that's how we were paying them back. We're still paying for some of those things, by the way, and I think once we get beyond that, with the way we've structured the government in New Hampshire, it's positive. We're reacting to things like the drug crisis. We certainly are reacting to mental health. There's more to do, and those are things that I want to get back here and make sure that we're doing it right, but I think it's working.
We're also looking at the analytics that go in with these programs that we've done, like attacking this drug problem and everything. And we're actually looking at it and seeing if the solution is there, or do we have to tweak it and put something else in? Like
I believe that. And I think it's important. And I think, you know, the good thing about having 400 reps and 24 senators, there's a ton of ideas. You know, on education, I certainly believe after-school programs are a way to help with the drug crisis and to help with society. We started doing that. We funded, you know, Boys and Girls Club programs after school, and we have an experiment going on right now in the Timberlane School District with after-school programs that I certainly believe the model that we've put in place is something that we're looking at coming back in 2020 and talking about, because I think it'll make a difference. We're giving kids an opportunity.
Right, and not only kids, we're doing something for the adults too. Teaching people who have English as a second language to really get to know how to operate with a country that is a little bit different than where they come from.
I strongly believe in that, and I think the reality of everything we've done with drugs and alcohol, huge improvement. You know, back in 2014, $0 going into the alcohol fund. We are now up to $10 million. What we want to do is make sure we're spending that money effectively. That's what you were suggesting. That's why we want to come back. Right. We want to make sure that we're doing it right.
Well, we want to make sure a lot of people out there go and vote this year too. This is a very important year for everybody, and people should try to get the neighbors and everybody to go out and vote this year.
Yeah, well, listen, you have one of the strongest senators in my Senate right now, Kevin Avard, in your district. I mean, the reality of Kevin is firmly believes in protecting the public on energy. He's chaired that. He believes in it. You know, he's been a firm leader in domestic violence. Yeah. You have a great man down there. Send him back because I want him up here.
Okay, and we have another one running in another district down there, Dave Schoeneman.
In District 13. We'd love to have him up here. We appreciate the fact that you and Nashua are working hard to send Republican senators up here. We need the help. We certainly will take their efforts and make them work in Concord.
Well, Kevin was a very interesting person to bring aboard. He actually was a representative in my ward way back in 2010. And now he's really working out. He was only going to be there for 1 or 2 years, but he loves the job.
Well, he loves the job, and Kevin's basically become a senator that really lives the Senate. He firmly believes in it. I've knocked on doors with him. He likes to talk to people. Very religious, very strong character. When he's up here, He loves to take his guitar and go in the chamber with fourth graders and sing to them.
Definitely.
You know, he's got the whole package of a good, strong senator, and he enjoys
He
it.
does communicate well. How about the rest of the Senate? How well are they doing? You got so many new people at your?
Well, we've had one senator retire and go and run for a different office, but the other 13 are incumbents that are running. I just told you, I think that what we delivered in the budget was very effective for the state of New Hampshire. It's showing we have a strong economy in the state. I think the people will support that, and I think they'll support all 13. I do think there's other seats that we've created opportunity for in the state of New Hampshire, and we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to getting through the primary season.
Right.
Republicans love primaries, so we're looking forward to going through that and then going into the general election and telling the people in New Hampshire exactly what we've accomplished.
Well, it's really a busy primary too in a number of areas. We have a lot of good people running, so we have a number of good choices. So.
Yeah, and that's something we've encouraged from day one in the party. I think it's a good thing. You get the ideas out there. They're spirited ideas, and I think they need to be debated. I think that's an important part of Republican politics. And I spoke last night at one of a debate, and I certainly saw enough reps to sink a ship. And the reality is, I made it perfectly clear. Not only do we have to come back and deliver exactly what we delivered this time, we need to deliver more. We need to make sure we send a strong message. There will not be a sales tax in New Hampshire, and there will not be an income tax in New Hampshire. And I think we have to deliver that.
Very good. And the People's View is trying to help out by having all these people in Nashua anyway, as well as the state offices, on our show, so people have a chance to look at them and see what they've said on what they want to do. So I think that we're going to have an active primary, and we're going to have a very interesting final vote in November.
Well, I look forward to Nashua delivering me a Republican Senate.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Senator.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.